"Hey, my sweet boy," she whispered, forcing a warmth into her voice that she didn't feel. "Mama's right here." The harsh fluorescent lights of the pediatric intensive care unit painted tired shadows across Maya's face. She sat anchored in the stiff chair beside her son's incubator, a clear plastic pod that had become 2-month-old Liam's entire world. Her finger traced the outline of the access window, a silent ritual she repeated countless times a day. The steady, mechanical beep-beep-beep of the heart monitor and the soft whoosh of oxygen had replaced the lullabies she used to sing. It was a cold, electronic symphony that never ended. Inside the incubator, Liam lay still. His tiny chest rose and fell with a visible, labored effort. A network of tubes and wires, taped carefully to his fragile skin, seemed to swallow his small frame, making him appear even more delicate. A soft tuft of blonde hair, just like his father's, curled gently across his forehead. Maya reached through the window to stroke it, her touch as light as a feather. The door slid open with a quiet hiss, and Nurse Anna entered, her movements efficient and hushed. She checked Liam's vitals on the screens, adjusted the flow of his four, and gave Maya's shoulder a gentle, knowing squeeze. "Dr. Evans will be in to see you soon," she said softly, her eyes full of unspoken sympathy. Maya's stomach tightened. She had become an expert at reading the subtle language of the hospital staff, the careful choice of words, the slight shift in tone. Something had changed. The air in the room felt heavier. When Dr. Evans arrived, his usual confident stride was absent. He pulled a stool close to Maya, and her world tilted on its axis before he even spoke. "Ms. Riggs," he began, his voice laden with a familiar, dreadful weight, "we've reached the limits of our standard treatments. Liam's condition, it's not improving. The infection is resistant to our strongest antibiotics, and we're seeing signs of organ stress." Maya's hands curled into fists in her lap, the fabric of her jeans twisting under her grip. There has to be something else. Another specialist, a different drug, anything. Dr. Evans's eyes held a deep, genuine sorrow. "We've consulted nationally. At this point, our focus needs to shift to comfort care, making sure he isn't in any pain." "No!" The word burst from her, sharp and raw. "He's a fighter. Look at him. He's held on for so long." "I understand how difficult this is," Dr. Evans said, his tone gentle but firm. "But we need to discuss the options for his final days." Maya stared at her son, memories flooding her. The first time he wrapped his tiny hand around her finger, the gummy smile that could light up a room, the way he would calm instantly when a certain fluffy, golden visitor came by, the way his tiny fingers would uncurl from their frail fist to pat Buddy's nose. "Buddy," she said suddenly, the name a lifeline. "Could we bring Buddy to see him? Just once." You remember how Liam always responded to him. His heart rate would stabilize, his oxygen levels would improve. It was like magic. Dr. Evans's expression softened with pity. The therapy animal program was discontinued last month, Maya, to make way for the new Finch Foundation nutritional program. Bringing Buddy in now would require special approval from administration, and given the circumstances... "Please," Maya pleaded, desperation clawing at her throat. "It's not a medical treatment. It's comfort. It's one moment of peace for my boy. It might help him rally." "I'll speak with Dr. Sterling," he promised, though the tone of his voice offered little hope. The hours crawled by, each minute stretching into an eternity. Maya alternated between whispering promises to Liam and sending silent, desperate prayers to a universe that felt increasingly cruel. When the sharp click of heels announced Dr. Isabella Sterling's arrival, Maya straightened up, summoning a strength she didn't possess. Dr. Sterling stood at the foot of the incubator, her tailored designer suit and perfectly coiffed hair a stark contrast to Maya's rumpled sweatshirt and exhausted eyes. "Ms. Riggs," she began, not unkindly, but with professional distance that felt like a physical wall. "Dr. Evans informed me of your request. Dr. Sterling, if I could just explain..." Dr. Sterling held up a manicured hand. "We are preparing for a significant donor event next week. The entire wing must adhere to the strictest protocols. Having an animal here, even a former therapy dog, introduces an unacceptable variable. It poses a risk and complicates our sterile environment. But Buddy was here for over a year without a single incident, Maya argued, her voice trembling with suppressed emotion. He's certified, he's trained, The program was terminated for solid financial reasons, Dr. Sterling cut in. We cannot make exceptions, especially not with Alastair Finch's visit approaching. His donation will fund a new, state-of-the-art monitoring system for this very ward. Maya felt hot, fierce anger rise in her chest. My son is dying, and you're worried about a donor event? I understand you're upset, Dr. Sterling said, her tone cool and unmoved. But we have policies in place for the safety of all our patients. I'm sorry, but the answer is no. As Dr. Sterling's heels clicked decisively down the corridor, Maya turned back to Liam. His small face was peaceful in sleep, blissfully unaware of the battles being fought over the remains of his short life. She thought of Buddy's warm, gentle presence, how the big golden retriever would lay his head near the incubator, his soft, brown eyes full of a quiet understanding. She remembered the way Liam's tiny hand would reach out, making soft, cooing sounds that had become heartbreakingly rare. The mountain of medical bills sat in the back of her mind, a crushing weight she could never hope to lift with her waitress salary, even with all the double shifts. But in this moment, none of that mattered. The only currency was time, and hers was running out. Nurse Anna returned with Liam's evening medications. I heard about Dr. Sterling's decision, she said quietly. I'm so sorry, Maya. That dog he was special with the kids. Maya wiped at her eyes with a trembling hand. I just wanted to feel some happiness, some comfort. Is that too much to ask? No, honey, it's not. Anna checked Liam's monitors with a practiced ease. You know, I still have the contact information for Buddy's handler. Ben was devastated when they ended the program. A small, fierce flicker of hope ignited in Maya's chest. She looked up at Anna and saw a shared understanding in the nurse's weary gaze. I can't officially give you that information, Anna continued, her voice dropping to a near whisper. But if I happen to leave my personal phone unlocked on the break room table while I check on my other patients. She gave Maya a long, meaningful look. Tears, different from the ones of despair, sprang to Maya's eyes. Thank you, she breathed. I'm going on my break now, Anna said at a normal volume. I'll be back in 15 minutes to check on Liam. As Anna's footsteps faded, Maya looked at her son. His small chest continued its battle, each breath of victory. She thought of Dr. Sterling's cold dismissal, of the donor event that seemed to matter more than a child's final moments of joy. The exhaustion, the grief, the anger, it all crystallized into a hard, diamond-sharp resolve. I promise you, baby, she whispered to Liam, her voice now steady and sure. You're going to see Buddy again. Mama's going to make it happen. She stood, her joints protesting after hours of stillness. The break room was just down the hall. She had exactly 15 minutes. 15 minutes to find the information that could grant her son a final moment of peace. 15 minutes to decide to defy the rules that seemed designed to strip away every last comfort. Maya took one last look at Liam, his tiny form dwarfed by the humming, beeping machines. The decision, in the end, wasn't hard at all. For him, she would break any rule. She would face any consequence. She squared her shoulders and walked purposefully toward the break room, her steps quiet but filled with new determination. In her mind, she could already see Buddy's friendly, furry face, feel the warmth of his presence. She would find a way to bring that comfort back to Liam, even if it meant going against the entire hospital administration. Some battles were worth fighting, no matter the cost. This was one of them. The break room door stood slightly ajar. Through the gap, she could see Anna's phone lying on the table, its screen glowing like a beacon in the dim room. Maya took a deep, steadying breath and pushed the door open, stepping into the quiet space where her quiet rebellion would begin. The weight of her decision pressed down on her, but alongside it was a fierce, burning hope, the kind that only appears when you have nothing left to lose and everything left to fight for. At Bonds Unspoken, we believe every story between a human and their animal companion deserves to be heard. If you agree, please like, share, and subscribe, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you can join us every time another bond speaks louder than words. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the hospital's courtyard garden. Maya paced near a small fountain, the sound doing little to calm the frantic rhythm of her own heart. Her fingers worried a crumpled piece of paper in her pocket, the one with Ben's number, now smudged from her nervous handling. After a brief hushed phone call, he had agreed to meet her here, away from the prying eyes and sterile air of the hospital. A cool breeze rustled the leaves. Maya checked her watch again. She had bribed a nursing assistant with the promise of a fancy coffee to sit with Liam for 30 minutes. The clock was ticking. "Ms. Riggs." The voice was calm and steady. Maya turned to see a man approaching. He was of average height with a kind, weathered face and a close-cropped salt-and-pepper beard. He wore a simple jacket with the logo of a local therapy animal organization. His eyes, a warm shade of brown, held a deep, innate kindness. "Please call me Maya," she said, extending her hand. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Walters." "Ben," he corrected with a gentle smile that put her slightly more at ease. "Buddy's waiting in the car. I thought it was best we talk first." They settled on a nearby bench, the fountain soft splashing masking their conversation from anyone who might be listening. Maya's hand shook slightly as she pulled out her phone and showed him a picture. It was of Liam, taken about 2 months ago during one of Buddy's last official visits. The baby was reaching a tiny, happy hand toward the golden retriever's soft, golden head. "Look at his face," Maya explained, her voice catching. "I hadn't seen him smile like that in weeks." Ben studied the photo, his expression softening. Buddy remembers him. He always got excited when we were heading to the pediatric wing, but there were a few children he connected with on a deeper level. Liam was one of them. Maya took a deep, shuddering breath, gathering her courage. "They've stopped treatment," she said, the words feeling like shards of glass in her throat. They're saying it could be days, maybe a week. I just want him to have one last visit with Buddy. One moment of pure joy before." She couldn't finish the sentence. Ben clasped his hands together, his knuckles whitening slightly. "I heard they suspended the program for the donor event preparations. It feels wrong, profoundly wrong." "Dr. Sterling won't make an exception," Maya explained, a fresh wave of desperation washing over her. "Not even for end-of-life comfort. I've tried everything, Ben. I'm not asking for a miracle cure. Just one visit. One chance for my baby to feel that happiness again." A new, softer voice joined their conversation. "Maybe I can help with that." They both turned to see a young nurse with kind eyes and dark hair tied back in a messy but practical bun. Her ID badge read Chloe Davis, RN. "I'm sorry for interrupting," Chloe said, stepping closer and lowering her voice. "I overheard. I've been helping with Liam's care since he was admitted. What they're doing, it isn't right." Ben stood, his posture straightening with a renewed sense of purpose. "You're risking your job by even talking to us." Chloe's chin lifted a fraction. "Some things are worth the risk. I'm on the night shift tomorrow. The donor event prep team will be gone by then, and Dr. Sterling never stays past 6. She glanced around the courtyard before continuing, her voice barely a whisper. "The service entrance by the loading dock is usually empty after 8. Security does their rounds on the hour, every hour." Maya felt that dangerous, wonderful hope blooming in her chest again. "You'd help us?" "I can adjust the rounding schedule for floor." "Make sure you have a clear path," Chloe said, her plan clearly already formed. "They won't catch us," Ben assured her, a glint of determination in his eyes. Buddy's trained for discreet entry and exit. He was a rescue before he was a therapy dog. Learn to be quiet, to observe. It's why he's so good at sensing things others miss. He turned to Maya. "Tomorrow night, 8:30, that gives us a window between security rounds." Maya nodded, tears of gratitude threatening to spill over. "I don't know how to thank you both." "Don't thank us yet," Chloe cautioned, though a small smile touched her lips. "We need to be precise." She pulled a small notepad from her scrubs and sketched a quick, efficient map. "This is a service entrance. I'll prop it open at exactly 8:30. Take the service elevator to the 3rd floor, then turn right down the back hallway. I'll meet you by the linen closet, and guide you to Liam's room. Ben studied the map, committing the route to memory. Buddy and I will be ready. We'll park in a far lot, away from the main security cameras. I'll make sure Liam's awake, Maya added, hope making her voice stronger. He's usually a little more alert in the evenings. Chloe checked her watch. I need to get back. I'll make the adjustments to tomorrow's schedule during my shift tonight. She reached out and touched Maya's arm gently. We'll make this happen. As Chloe hurried back inside, Ben turned to Maya. Are you absolutely sure about this? If we're caught... I'm sure, Maya said, her voice firm and clear. My son deserves this moment of joy. Whatever consequences come, I'll bear them. Ben's eyes crinkled with understanding. No, they'll be ours to bear. We're in this together now. He stood and offered her a card with his personal cell number written on it. Text me when you're ready tomorrow. Buddy and I will be waiting. Maya watched him walk away, the card clutched tightly in her hand like a precious talisman. For the first time in weeks, she felt something beyond despair, a spark of defiance, of connection, of a love so powerful to bend rules and sneak a golden-furred friend past a wall of bureaucracy. She hurried to the coffee cart, remembering her promise. As she waited in line, she sent a silent, fervent thank you to Ben and Chloe for their courage, for their willingness to stand with her. Back in Liam's room, she settled into her chair, the familiar dread now mixed with a thrilling undercurrent of anticipation. The monitors beat their steady, monotonous rhythm. Buddy's come and see you tomorrow, sweetheart, she whispered, gently touching Liam's small hand. Just hold on a little longer for me. Outside the window, the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of orange and purple. In less than 24 hours, they would attempt their quiet rebellion. They would fight the cold, unfeeling system with the warm, beating heart of a mother's love. 15 minutes. One chance. For Liam, it was everything. The service entrance door groaned softly on its hinges as Maya pushed it open, her heart hammering a frantic beat against her ribs. Ben guided Buddy through the gap, the golden retriever's paws making quiet, shuffling sounds on the worn linoleum. In the dim, greenish light of the emergency exit sign, Buddy's golden coat seemed to absorb the shadows, making him a shimmering, almost spectral presence. Remember, Maya whispered, her voice tight with anxiety. We have to be completely silent. She checked her phone, the screen blindingly bright in the dark corridor. 8:32 p.m. Right on schedule. Ben gave a tight nod, keeping Buddy close with a quiet hand signal. The dog moved with an unexpected stealth, his body low to ground, every step deliberate. They reached the service elevator without incident, the low hum of its ancient machinery, the only sound in the deserted hallway. Third floor, Maya mouthed. Pressing the button, the elevator shuddered to life, carrying them upward with an agonizing lack of speed. Each floor number lit up with a dull ping. 1, 2, 3. The door slid open to reveal Chloe waiting by the linen closet, just as promised. She beckoned them forward with urgent, sweeping gestures. Quickly, she breathed, her eyes wide. Security just passed. We have about 50 minutes. They followed her through a maze of back corridors, past darkened offices and silent treatment rooms. The neonatal intensive care unit lay at the end of the hall, its entrance marked by double doors and stern warnings about sterile protocols. Chloe swiped her badge, and they slipped inside. The NICU was bathed in the soft, dim light of night shift, a cocoon of quiet shadows broken only by the gentle glow of monitors. The rhythmic beeping of machines provided a surreal soundtrack to their careful, tiptoeing footsteps. Liam's room was the second on the right. Maya's breath caught as they entered. Her baby looked so small and fragile in the clear plastic incubator, a tiny island in a sea of tubes and wires. His chest rose and fell with mechanical regularity, aided by the oxygen flowing through his nasal cannula. "Hey, my brave boy," Maya whispered, approaching the crib. Her voice was thick with emotion. "Look who's here to see you." Ben guided Buddy closer. The dog's demeanor shifted instantly. Instead of his usual calm, he sniffed the air. He went straight to the nutrition bag hanging from its pole and let out a low, concerned whine. "What's wrong?" Maya asked, a knot of worry tightening in her stomach. Ben frowned. I've never seen him act like this during a visit. Then, after a moment, Buddy broke away. He became more agitated, pacing nervously near the electrical panel on the wall. His whining grew more insistent as he stared at the panel. This is different, Ben said, his voice low and tense. This is how he acted during his detection work. He's alerting. Alerting? Chloe asked, moving closer. Before Ben could respond, the room's door hissed open. Dr. Isabella Sterling stood in the doorway, her face a mass of cold, controlled fury. Even in the dim light, her sharp suit and perfect posture radiated absolute authority. What is the meaning of this? She hissed, her voice a low, sharp blade cutting through the quiet. An animal in my sterile ward? Maya stepped forward, placing her hand directly on the incubator between Sterling and Liam. He's a certified therapy dog. He's here to comfort my son. Comfort? Dr. Sterling's laugh was a short, brittle sound. Your son needs a sterile medical environment, not a pet contaminating his space. This is completely unacceptable. Buddy's whining grew louder, more distressed. He circled back to the nutrition cart, pawing at its base. Get that creature out of here immediately, Dr. Sterling ordered, pulling her phone from her pocket. I'm calling security. No. Maya's voice was quiet, but it held a new, unshakable firmness. She stood straighter, her hand still protective on the incubator. My son is dying, Dr. Sterling. The least you could do is allow him this small comfort. This isn't about comfort, Dr. Sterling snapped. This is about protocols. This is about maintaining control and safety. Do you have any idea what our donors would say if they knew we allowed animals to wander through the NICU? Is that all you care about? Maya's voice cracked with raw emotion. Your donors? What about the actual children in your care? Buddy's behavior grew more frantic. He moved from the cart back to the electrical panel, his whines taking on a new, urgent quality. Ma'am, Ben tried to intervene, stepping forward. I think there's something. I don't care what you think. Dr. Sterling cut him off. Remove this dog from my ward immediately, or I will have security remove all of you and press charges for trespassing. Chloe stepped forward. Dr. Sterling, please. Maybe we should. And you? Dr. Sterling turned her icy glare on the nurse. Consider yourself suspended, pending a full review of your involvement in the spectacular breach of protocol. But Maya had reached her limit. Months of fear, sleepless nights, and mounting despair crystallized into a moment of pure, fierce courage. No, she said again, louder this time. Buddy stays. My son's comfort matters more than your appearance of control. How dare you? Dr. Sterling began, but her words were cut off by Buddy's sudden, sharp bark. The golden retriever stood rigid, his attention laser-focused on the nutrition cart, and then back to the wall. His entire posture screamed alert to anyone who knew how to read it. And Ben knew. He'd seen this exact stance hundreds of times during their earlier work. Something's wrong, he said, his voice carrying the weight of hard experience. Buddy's not mourning. He's warning us. This is how he acts when he detects a threat. The room fell into a stunned silence, broken only by the steady beeping of Liam's monitors and Buddy's continued, insistent whines. For a moment, they were frozen in a tense tableau. Maya, protected beside her son's incubator, Ben alert and focused on his dog, Chloe, watching with dawning horror, and Dr. Sterling, seething with barely contained rage. The administrator's phone was halfway to her ear when Buddy barked again, the sound sharp and echoing in the small, sterile room. The message was clear. Something was very, very wrong. And in that charged moment, as Buddy's warning hung in the air, the true stakes of their nighttime mission shifted dramatically. This was no longer just about bringing comfort to a dying child. Something more sinister lurked beneath the surface of this pristine ward, and Buddy's unparalleled instincts had caught what human eyes had missed. The beeping of Liam's monitors continued their steady rhythm, unaware of the drama unfolding around them. In his incubator, the baby slept on, while above him, a mother's love, a dog's warning, and a hospital's secrets collided in the dim light of a room that had suddenly transformed from a place of healing into a battlefield. Morning light clean and sharp, streamed through the large NICU windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. Maya sat slumped in her chair beside Liam's incubator, her body heavy with a sleepless night. The memory of Buddy's frantic alerts and Dr. Sterling's icy fury replayed in her mind on a loop, but exhaustion had dulled the sharp edges of her fear into a constant, throbbing ache. The ward's usual hushed reverence was suddenly shattered by the sharp, staccato click of expensive heels on linoleum. Dr. Isabella Sterling strode to the double doors, a picture of polished composure, followed by a tall, elegant man draped in a suit that probably cost more than Maya's car. Behind them trailed a small entourage of photographers and reporters, their camera bags rustling like a swarm of insects. And this, Dr. Sterling announced, her voice projecting a warm, practiced confidence, is our world-class neonatal intensive care unit. Thanks to the generous support of the Finch Foundation, we've been able to integrate cutting-edge technology with compassionate care for our most vulnerable patients. The elegant man, undoubtedly Alistair Finch himself, offered a camera-ready smile. "It's humbling to see our mission come to life," he said, his voice a smooth, cultured baritone. "Every child deserves a fighting chance." Maya watched as orderlies and nurses scurried, straightening blankets and polishing already gleaming equipment surfaces. It was a meticulously staged production, and everyone was an extra except for the stars, Sterling and Finch. Dr. Sterling's eyes scanned the room and landed on Maya. Her smile tightened imperceptibly. She broke away from the group and approached with swift, purposeful steps. "Ms. Riggs," she said, her voice a low, controlled murmur, "I need you to leave the ward. Immediately." Maya blinked, the fatigue making her slow to process the demand. "What? No, I'm not leaving Liam. This is not a request." Dr. Sterling's voice held steel beneath the velvet tone. "After last night's incident, you've proven yourself a disruptive influence. We cannot have any unfortunate displays during this important event." "Unfortunate displays?" Maya's voice was a disbelieving whisper. "My son is fighting for his life, and you're worried about how it looks to the cameras?" "Lower your voice," Dr. Sterling hissed, her smile still fixed for anyone watching from a distance. "If you continue to be difficult, I will have no choice but to initiate discharge proceedings. Your son's condition has plateaued, and we need this bed for more critical cases." The threat was a physical blow, knocking the air from Maya's lungs. "You can't do that. He's not stable enough to move." "I can, and I will." Dr. Sterling's smile was unwavering. "Now, please remove yourself from the ward for the next hour. We'll discuss Liam's situation afterward." Before Maya could form a coherent protest, Chloe appeared at her side. The young nurse's face was a careful mask of professional neutrality, but her eyes flickered with urgency. "I'll stay with Liam," Chloe promised Maya, her tone brooking no argument. "Why didn't you go get some fresh air?" "I need to speak with you anyway about his care plan." The subtle emphasis on the last few words was unmistakable. Maya nodded slowly, her body moving on autopilot. She gathered her worn purse and jacket, feeling the weight of Dr. Sterling's gaze and the curious stares of the reporters as she walked past. She heard Alistair Finch's voice ring out behind her. "Our specialized nutritional program has been a game changer for infants with complex needs. This partnership represents our profound commitment to care." The words followed her down the hallway, each one tasting more bitter than the last. She found herself in the small, utilitarian family waiting room, which had been conspicuously cleared of its usual occupants, another casualty of the photo op, she thought grimly. 15 minutes later, Chloe slipped into the room, closing the door firmly behind her. Her usual cheerful demeanor was gone, replaced by a grim seriousness. "I've been reviewing Liam's charts all night," Chloe said without preamble, her voice hushed. "Something isn't adding up." Maya leaned forward, her exhaustion forgotten. "What do you mean?" "His decline. It's been rapid, yes, but it's also followed a specific, strange pattern." Chloe pulled a small, well-worn notebook from her scrubs, flipping through pages filled with neat, precise handwriting. "I started tracking it when I noticed the timing. Everything started to change about 7 weeks ago." "What happened 7 weeks ago?" That's when we switched him to the new formula program, Chloe said, her eyes darting toward the door. The one fully sponsored by the Finch Foundation. It's supposed to be a specially designed premium nutrition for premature infants with high-calorie needs. The hospital gets it at a massive discount in exchange for exclusive use and promotional rights. Maya's heart began to pound, a dreadful suspicion coiling in her gut. And you think there's a connection? I can't prove it yet, Chloe admitted, tapping her notes. But it's like his body is being slowly poisoned, Maya. The numbers on his chart drop every time he's on this formula, like clockwork. And I've quietly checked. 2 other babies on the same formula have shown similar, though less severe, issues. Why hasn't anyone else said anything? Maya's voice was barely a whisper. Chloe's laugh was short and bitter. The Finch Foundation practically bankrolls this wing now. Their donations paid for the new ventilators, the monitoring systems, even part of our continuing education fund. Dr. Sterling would never, ever risk that relationship, no matter what the data suggests. Maya's mind raced back to the night before, to Buddy's intense fixation on the nutrition cart, his desperate whines. Last night, she began slowly, the pieces clicking into a horrifying picture. Buddy was trying to tell us something about the formula. Dogs can sense things we can't, Chloe agreed, her expression grave. And Buddy's not just any dog. He's trained to detect problems, biological ones. Through the waiting room window, they could see the photo op continuing in the ward. Alistair Finch was now posed at the baby's bedside, his manicured hand resting gently on the incubator rail, while cameras flashed. Dr. Sterling hovered nearby, directing the scene like a proud filmmaker. What can we do? Maya asked, her voice thick with a potent mix of rage and fear. They're not going to listen to us. They've made that perfectly clear. We need proof, Chloe said firmly. Real scientific, irrefutable evidence that can't be ignored or swept under a rug. I've already started documenting everything. But we need more. She hesitated, her professional caution warring with her moral outrage. And we need to be careful. Dr. Sterling won't hesitate to destroy anyone who threatens this arrangement. Maya watched as more photos were taken. More hands were shaken. More hollow words about excellence and innovation were exchanged. Through it all, her son lay in his crib, growing weaker by the day, while people posed for pictures and talk about his fighting chance. I don't care about being careful, Maya said, her voice quiet but vibrating with intensity. I care about saving my son. Chloe reached out and squeezed her hand. We'll figure this out. But for now, we have to play along. Let them have their photo op. Let them think they're in control. The morning light continued to stream to the windows, now illuminating the dust in the waiting room like a shower of tiny, falling stars. In the NICU, cameras flashed and people smiled, while in a quiet, forgotten room, 2 women began plotting how to expose a truth that powerful people were determined to keep buried. Liam's monitors beeped steadily in the background, a metronome counting down the seconds. His life hung in the balance, caught between corporate greed and medical ethics, between a mother's love and an administrator's ambition. The truth was there, waiting to be uncovered, in the numbers on a chart, in the pattern of decline, in a golden retriever's warning, and in a nurse's careful, courageous observations. The photo op continued, a perfectly choreographed display of philanthropy and progress. But beneath the gleaming surface, something dark and poisonous festered. Something that had been hidden behind smiles and oversized checks. Something that was slowly harming the very children it claimed to help. Ben Walters couldn't shake the feeling. It was a deep, nagging itch in his mind that kept him awake all night. Buddy's behavior in the NICU hadn't been normal. Not for a therapy dog, and certainly not for Buddy. 20 years of working with canines, first in search and rescue, now in therapy, had taught him one unshakable rule. Trust the dog, especially when the dog is trying to tell you something urgent. He made his way through the hospital's quiet morning corridors, Buddy padding silently beside him. The golden retriever's ears were perked, his whole body thrumming with a focused energy. They had come early, before the day's shift change, when the halls were at their most empty. "Hey!" a soft voice called out. Chloe appeared from an alcove, still in her night shift scrubs, dark circles under her eyes testifying to her own sleepless night. "I was hoping you'd come back." Buddy's reaction last night, Ben said, getting straight to the point. It wasn't anxiety. It wasn't empathy. He was alerting. He was trying to tell us something specific. "I know," Chloe said, glancing over her shoulder. "Dr. Sterling is in a budget meeting in the admin wing. We have maybe 20 minutes before she makes her rounds." It was all the time they needed. They moved quietly into the NICU, where Maya sat vigil, her hand resting gently on the incubator where Liam slept. The baby's breathing seemed more ragged than the night before, his tiny form looking even smaller against the white sheets. "We need to check something," Ben explained to Maya. He unclipped Buddy's blue therapy vest, replacing it with an older, more utilitarian harness from his bag. The change in the dog was instantaneous. His playful softness vanished, replaced by a rigid, workmanlike focus. This was no longer a comfort visit. This was a mission. "Search," Ben commanded softly. Buddy's nose went to work immediately, sniffing methodically around the perimeter of the room. When he approached the nutrition cart, his body locked up. He began pawing at the floor, a sharp, deliberate scratch. Then he turned and let out a single, sharp bark directed at the cart. "That's a positive alert," Ben murmured, his stomach sinking. "He's picking up something specific." Chloe's face was pale. "Those formulas are supposed to be sterile, specially formulated and sealed." But Buddy wasn't done. He suddenly turned his attention to the same wall he'd been fixated on the night before, near the electrical panel. His whining grew intense, and he started scratching at the baseboards. "Two distinct alerts," Ben said, his concern turning to cold dread. "One at the formula, another at that wall. In detection work, that pattern usually indicates multiple, separate sources of contamination or danger." Maya's hands tightened on the incubator rail. "The formula. Chloe just told me about the connection to his decline. But what's wrong with the wall?" Before Ben could voice his growing suspicion about an electrical fault, a sharp voice sliced through the room. "What is that animal doing in here again?" Dr. Isabella Sterling stood in the doorway, her tailored suit a stark contrast to their tired, worried faces. "I thought I made myself perfectly clear last night. Dr. Sterling." Ben stepped forward, keeping his voice calm and respectful. He spotted a maintenance cart abandoned near the wall and grabbed a thermal imaging scanner. "I'm a certified K-9 handler with extensive experience in hazard detection." He powered on the scanner and pointed it at the electrical panel. The reading showed violent red against the cooler blues. Buddy is indicating serious concerns about two separate issues: the formula and the electrical system in that wall. "The temperature is critical." "This is a medical facility, not a construction site," Sterling interrupted, her voice dripping with contempt. "My primary duty is to the financial health of this institution, which ensures we can help all patients. I want you out of this ward. Now." "Ma'am, with all due respect." "No." Dr. Sterling's voice was final. "I will not have a retired firefighter and his pet undermining the reputation of this hospital. We have state-of-the-art equipment and rigorous protocols. We don't need amateur opinions." A sudden, rapid beeping interrupted her. Chloe rushed to Liam's monitors, her movements swift. "His O2 stats are dropping again," she reported, adjusting settings. "Heart rate spiking. This is exactly why we can't have disruptions." Dr. Sterling snapped. "Security will escort you out if necessary." But Ben stood his ground, Buddy alert and rigid beside him. "Doctor, I've seen these alerts in collapsed buildings, in disaster zones. When Buddy reacts like this, it means there's an immediate physical danger, multiple sources of it." "Enough!" Dr. Sterling's composure finally cracked, a flash of real anger in her eyes. "You have no authority here." "His stats are still unstable," Chloe cut in, her voice tight with urgency. "We need to—" "Then do your job, Nurse Davis." Sterling snapped. She turned back to Ben. "Get that animal out." Buddy's whining intensified, a desperate, pleading sound. He was torn between the cart and the wall, his focus jumping between the two threats his nose could so clearly detect but his human partners could not see. "Look at him," Ben insisted, gesturing to the distressed dog. "He's trained to detect biological and chemical hazards, as well as electrical fires. Something in that formula and something behind that wall are triggering the strongest alert response he has. You can't ignore this." "I can, and I will." Dr. Sterling's voice was glacial. "This ward operates under my authority, not the hunches of a man and his dog. Our protocols are vetted by top medical professionals and generous donors who care more about photo ops than patient safety." Maya's quiet voice cut through the tension like a knife. She stood beside Liam's incubator, one hand still gently on her son's arm, but her eyes blazed with ferocity that made Dr. Sterling take a slight step back. "My baby is dying while you worry about donor relationships and hospital reputation," Maya said, each word clear and sharp. Buddy, as if to emphasize her point, let out a high-pitched whine and scratched more urgently at the wall. The sound of his claws against the vinyl baseboard was unnerving in the tense silence. "Get out!" Dr. Sterling enunciated each word, her finger pointing toward the door. "Before I have security remove you and ensure you never set foot in this hospital again." Ben looked at Maya, then at Chloe, who was still frantically trying to stabilize Liam's readings. The nurse's face was a mask of professional conflict, torn between her orders and the terrifying evidence unfolding before her. "His vitals aren't stabilizing," Chloe reported, her professional tone strained with panic. "What we need," Dr. Sterling interrupted, "is order and compliance with established protocols, not hysteria over a dog's behavior." But Buddy wouldn't stop. His alerts grew more intense, more frantic. Ben knew this behavior. He had seen it at the site of a factory fire, in the aftermath of a flood. This wasn't a false alarm. This wasn't confusion. This was a highly trained detection dog, using everything he had to warn them of a real and immediate danger. The tension in the room was a physical force. It was a battle between authority and instinct, between protocol and truth, between power and a mother's desperate love. In the middle of it all, the monitors beeped their relentless warning, and a tiny baby fought for every breath, while a golden dog tried, with all his being, to tell them why. The morning sun cast long, hopeful shadows through windows, illuminating the stark divide between those who sought the truth and those who were too afraid of it to look. Buddy's alerts continued, a desperate, living alarm that could not be silenced by threats or intimidation. Something was wrong in this ward, something that threatened the most vulnerable of lives, and no amount of administrative power could make that truth disappear. The pediatric ward had been transformed into a brilliant, artificial landscape under the harsh glare of television lights. Alistair Finch moved through the space as if he owned it, which in many ways he did. His smile was a perfectly calibrated instrument, designed to convey warmth and authority in equal measure. He paused, allowing the cameras to capture his profile against a backdrop of gleaming medical equipment. "This ward represents the very heart of our mission," he announced, his voice a smooth, resonant baritone that filled the space. "Here, the Finch Foundation's commitment to infant health moves from abstract concept to tangible reality. Every child in this room is a testament to what we can achieve together." Dr. Isabella Sterling hovered just behind his shoulder, her own smile a mirror of his confidence. "We are profoundly grateful for this partnership," she added, her voice cutting clearly through the quiet hum of the equipment. "The resources provided by the Foundation have allowed us to implement care protocols that were once only a dream." Inside Liam's room, the scene was starkly different. Maya sat frozen in her chair, one hand pressed lightly against her son's chest, feeling the frantic, bird-like flutter of his heartbeat. The noise from the hallway was an intrusion, a violent invasion of the fragile peace she tried to maintain around her son. Through the window that looked into the adjacent observation room, she could see the outlines of Ben and Buddy, waiting in the shadows, tense and ready for a signal that might never come. It was Buddy who sensed the shift first. His ears, usually soft and floppy, snapped forward. His entire body went rigid, the muscles in his shoulders and haunches tightening. His head turned, not toward the commotion in the hall, but toward the unassuming beige electrical panel mounted on the wall. A low, rumbling growl started deep in his chest, a sound so unlike his usual gentle whines that it made the hair on Maya's arm stand up. Ben recognized the change instantly. This was not the focus alert of a detection dog identifying a static contaminant. This was a raw, urgent warning of an imminent threat. He watched, his own adrenaline spiking, as the fur along Buddy's spine bristled. The dog's warm, intelligent eyes were locked on the panel with a terrifying intensity. The overhead lights flickered. It was a brief, almost imperceptible dip in brightness, but it was there. Then it happened again, this time with a faint, accompanying buzz. A new scent entered the air, cutting to the sterile hospital smells. It was acrid, like overheated plastic, and something sharper, like ozone after a lightning strike. As you can see, Dr. Sterling's voice carried from a hallway, a note of pride still evident. Our state-of-the-art facility integrates seamlessly with. Her words were cut off as the lights dimmed dramatically, surging back to full power with an audible, angry hum. Buddy's growl deepened into a continuous, threatening vibration. He took a single, purposeful step toward the panel, then swung his head back to look directly at Ben, his expression one of clear, unequivocal distress. "Listen to me." His eyes seemed to scream. The burning smell grew stronger, now unmistakable even over the scent of disinfectant and perfume. Buddy barked, a sharp, loud, percussive sound that shattered the controlled atmosphere. It was not a request, but a demand. Several reporters jumped, their professional composure broken as they instinctively swung their cameras toward the source of the noise. "What is that animal doing in here?" Alistair Finch asked, his polished voice now edged with sharp, public displeasure. He turned to Dr. Sterling, his smile gone. "This is highly irregular. It undermines a professional environment." Dr. Sterling's face tightened, a fine web of stress lines appearing around her eyes. "He will be removed immediately," she said, her voice tight. "Please, let's focus on the incredible success rates we've seen with the Foundation's nutritional program." But Ben was already in motion. His firefighter's instincts had taken over completely. He spotted a maintenance cart abandoned near the wall when the media swarm arrived. His hands, moving with muscle memory of their own, found a small thermal imaging scanner amid the tools. He powered it on. "Dr. Sterling," Ben called out, his voice cutting to the growing murmur of confusion. He moved toward her, the scanner in his hand. "We have a critical situation. We need to evacuate this ward immediately." "Not now," she hissed through a frozen smile, her eyes pleading with him to disappear. The burning smell intensified, becoming a palpable, choking presence in the room. Buddy barked again, the sound more frantic, more desperate. "Everyone needs to clear the area." Ben's voice shifted into the clear, commanding tone he had used at 100 disaster scenes. It was a voice that brooked no argument. He pointed the scanner at the electrical panel. The reading on the screen was a splash of violent red against the cooler blues and greens. The temperature was critical, deep into the danger zone that preceded a catastrophic failure. "The main electrical panel is overheating. It is on the verge of catching fire. We need to evacuate. Now." The lights flickered again, this time dipping low and staying there for a long, terrifying second before surging back with an audible surge. A distinct, sinister crackling sound, like popping corn, now emanated clearly from within the wall. Buddy's barking became a continuous, frantic alarm. "He tried to tell us," Ben shouted, turning to address the entire crowd. "He tried to tell us yesterday. The panel is going to fail. This is a code red. Evacuate the ward now." Alistair Finch's lead cameraman lowered his heavy equipment, his face a mask of fear. "Should we be worried about?" He started to ask his producer. "Everything is under complete control," Dr. Sterling insisted, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. The acrid smoke was now a visible, gray haze seeping from the panel's seams. "This is a minor electrical issue that is being—" "Mama!" Liam's weak, reedy cry cut through the noise like a shard of glass. It was a sound of pure, helpless fear. Simultaneously, the machines monitoring him erupted into a chorus of erratic, panic beeping as the unstable power ravaged their sensitive circuitry. Maya's world narrowed to the space between her son and the smoking wall. The medical equipment was his lifeline, a tether to the world. But that wall promised a fast, consuming death. She was trapped in an impossible calculation. Ben didn't wait for permission. He was no longer a visitor. He was the incident commander. Nurse Davis, I need a transport unit and a portable O2 tank in here now. Dr. Sterling, call a hospital-wide code red and initiate full evacuation procedures. Mr. Finch, your team needs to move to the designated emergency exit immediately. Buddy, without any command, positioned his body squarely between the sparking panel and Liam's incubator. He stood rigid, a golden-furred sentinel, his warning barks now mixed with protective growls. Every ignored alert, every dismissed concern, was now manifesting in the sparks and smoke before them. This is an overreaction. Dr. Sterling protested, but she flinched violently as a loud crack echoed from the wall, followed by a shower of brilliant orange sparks that sprayed from the panel's seams and landed sizzling on the linoleum floor. The illusion of control shattered. The reporters, no longer concerned with their story, became a stampede, scrambling for the door, their cameras still rolling, capturing the entire catastrophic unraveling of the PR event. Alistair Finch's polished composure evaporated, replaced by the wide-eyed, pale-faced alarm of a man facing real, physical danger. "My baby!" Maya's cry was a raw, guttural sound from the depths of her soul. Her hands fluttered over Liam, afraid to touch the wires that kept him alive, but desperate to snatch him from the danger. "Please, someone help me." Chloe burst through the door, pushing a small, mobile pediatric transport unit, her face a mask of focused determination. "I need to disconnect him from the wall oxygen and switch to portable. I need help with the 4 lines. Everyone else, out, now." The overhead lights gave one final, violent surge, bright enough to bleach the color from the room, before plunging the ward into absolute darkness. A unified, terrified gasp was swallowed by the sudden void. Then, a heartbeat later, the emergency backup lights clicked on, casting the chaotic scene in an eerie, hellish reddish glow. The acrid smell of burning insulation and melting plastic became a choking, thick cloud. No longer seeping, thick, black smoke now billowed from the electrical panel, rolling across the ceiling. Buddy's warning had been right. It had been deadly right all along. As hospital staff, now operating on pure training and adrenaline, rushed into the ward to implement emergency protocols, herding terrified parents and wheeling the tiny, vulnerable patients to safety, there was no room for doubt. The question was no longer about the dog's credibility, but about their own survival. The sound of the hospital-wide fire alarms began to wail, a screaming, relentless soundtrack to the chaos. Dr. Sterling stood frozen for a crucial 5 seconds, her perfectly orchestrated world collapsing around her, all captured on live television. The cameras, pointed now in fear and fascination, documented her catastrophic hesitation. "Help me with him," Maya pleaded, and Ben was already there, his large, steady hands working alongside Chloe's as she performed the delicate, dangerous ballet of disconnecting Liam from the life support room and transferring him to the portable oxygen tanks and monitors. The baby's face was scrunched in distress, his labored breaths now pulling in the toxic, smoke-tinged air. Buddy remained at his post, a steadfast guardian. He alternated between fierce, warning growls at the smoking panel and soft, anxious whines directed at Liam. His body was a coil of tension, ready to physically intercede if necessary, but he would not abandon his post until the baby was safe. The evacuation was a tide of controlled panic, a human river flowing toward the exits. But the crisis was accelerating. As sparks continued to arc and fly from the failing electrical system, the true, life-saving value of Buddy's persistent, ignored warnings became horrifyingly, tragically clear. Without his early alerts, they would not have had these precious, critical seconds. Without Ben's training, they would not have had a leader. The smoke thickened into a blinding, choking blanket, reducing visibility to mere feet. Yet, Dr. Sterling remained partially paralyzed, one hand still hovering near the now-activated fire alarm, as if she could somehow reverse what was happening. A full hospital evacuation, the panic, she muttered, seemingly to herself, her eyes fixed on the disaster. "Mr. Finch's foundation. Are you out of your mind?" Maya's voice cracked with fury born of absolute terror. She fumbled in her jeans pocket, her fingers numb, and pulled out her phone. She switched to video, her hand shaking so badly the image wavered, but she held it high. She panned across the hellscape. The spreading black smoke, Buddy's heroic, unwavering stance, the terrified, crying faces of other parents clutching their infants, and most damningly, Dr. Sterling's continued catastrophic failure to lead. Ben's training overrode everything. The debate is over. The fire is inside the walls and spreading. We are leaving. Now. The smoke was a living entity now, a dark, descending ceiling. Through the stinging haze, Maya could see Alistair Finch's expression finally shift from annoyed entitlement to genuine, primal fear as he stumbled backward away from the panel, his entourage having long since abandoned him. My son can't breathe this. Maya coughed, her lungs burning, but she kept her phone steady, a digital witness to the negligence. Chloe's hands were a blur of life-saving motion. Primary 4 disconnected. Portable oxygen secured at 2 liters. Monitor leads transferred. We are mobile, she called out, her voice a calm island in the storm. We go on 3. 1, 2, 3. Ben took the weight of the transport unit, guiding it smoothly as Chloe maintained control of the medical lines. Maya kept pace, one hand on the unit, her phone still recording as they moved into the chaotic, smoke-filled and now soaking wet corridor. The sprinkler system had finally engaged, drenching everyone and everything. Buddy led the way, his low, guiding growls a beacon in the chaos, his body clearing a path to the scrambling staff and evacuees for the most fragile among them. The battle for the truth was over. The war to expose, it was just beginning. And they were escaping with the only thing that truly mattered, Liam alive. The cold morning air in the children's hospital waiting room was a stark contrast to the smoke-choked chaos they had escaped. Maya scrolled through her phone, a cold dread seeping into her bones that had nothing to do with the temperature. Social media was on fire, but not with the truth. It was a conflagration of carefully crafted lies. Desperate mother endangers NICU with unauthorized pet, screamed one headline from a prominent news aggregator. Finch Foundation stands with St. Michael's Hospital after reckless publicity stunt, declared another. Her hands trembled as she read the comments. Strangers, armed with nothing but a distorted narrative, painted her as an unhinged woman, a grieving mother so unmoored she had risked the lives of dozens of babies for a photo op with a dog. They're moving fast, Ben said quietly from beside her, his own phone lighting up with notifications. Professional damage control. They're flooding the zone with their version of events. Owen's phone buzzed with an alert. He showed her the screen. The Langley Foundation had released an official statement expressing deep concern over the breach of safety protocols and praising the hospital staff's heroic efforts to manage the situation caused by an outside agitator. How can they twist it like this? Maya's voice was a broken whisper. They're making it sound like I deliberately... Because they're scared, Ben replied, his jaw hardline. And scared people with money and power are the most dangerous kind. They'll rewrite reality itself to protect their interests. A new email notification popped up on her screen. Her heart stopped, then plummeted into her stomach. It was from the County Department of Child and Family Services. The subject line read, Urgent, Emergency Assessment Liam Riggs. The preview text included phrases like potential endangerment and immediate risk. No, she whispered, the word barely audible. The phone slipped from her numb fingers and clattered onto the linoleum floor. No, they can't. Ben read the email over her shoulder, his face darkening. They're playing the dirtiest card in the deck, using the system to silence you. They're going to take him. The panic was a live wire in her chest, sizzling and snapping. They're going to take my baby away while I'm fighting to save him. Buddy, sensing her distress, whined softly and pressed his heavy head into her lap. His warm, solid presence was a comfort, but it couldn't stop the tidal wave of bureaucratic terror washing over her. Everything she had done to protect Liam was being weaponized against her. The truth was powerless against well-funded lies and institutional leverage. Ms. Riggs. A nurse stood in the doorway, her expression carefully neutral. There are two women from CPS here to speak with you. The conference room they were led to was small and sterile, much like the one in St. Michael's. Two women in severe business suits sat on one side of the small table, their folders open, their pens poised. Their expressions were unreadable, their professionalism a wall. Can you explain why you brought an unauthorized animal into a sterile neonatal environment? The first one began. Were you aware of the risk to immunocompromised infants? The second continued. Has your emotional state clouded your judgment regarding your son's safety? The questions were traps. Maya tried to explain about Buddy's training, about the contaminated formula, about the electrical fire, but they had a rebuttal for everything. The dog certification lapsed. The nurse who ran tests has been suspended. Maintenance says the electrical fault was minor. Her words fell hollow against their polished narrative. Tears of frustration burned in her eyes. Outside the conference room, Ben paced with Buddy. A man in hospital maintenance coveralls approached them, looking nervously over his shoulder. His name tag read Mike. You the handler? The one with the dog, the man asked, his voice low. Ben nodded cautiously. Yes, Ben Walters. Mike pulled a thick folder from inside his jacket. Maintenance logs, he whispered, shoving it into Ben's hands. Going back 8 months. That panel your dog went crazy over? We filed 4 work orders for overheating. All closed by administration. Mark resolved without a single repair. Ben's hands tightened on the folder. Why? Because my buddy got fired last month for red tagging that panel. Because every safety report disappears into Dr. Sterling's office. Because I've got kids of my own. Mike's eyes were earnest, fearful, but resolved. They'll deny it, but the time stamps are in the system. Ben quickly photographed every page. The log showed a clear pattern, repeated safety concerns, systematically buried. There's more, Mike added. Work orders for the formula storage unit's climate control. Temperature fluctuations reported for weeks. All buried. That dog of yours, he was smelling the whole rotten system. Buddy's alerts hadn't been about a single panel or a single batch of formula. He had detected a culture of negligence. Ben rushed back to the conference room just as one of the CPS workers was saying, given the pattern of concerning behavior, we will be recommending a temporary custody order. Excuse me, Ben interrupted, knocking firmly on the open door. I have new evidence that directly impacts this assessment. The CPS workers frowned, but Ben was already pulling up the photos on his phone. These are official hospital maintenance logs, showing a documented history of critical electrical safety issues in that NICU, issues that were reported and deliberately ignored by hospital administration. Maya leaned forward as the CPS workers examined the documents. Their practice neutrality finally cracked. These reports are quite detailed, the first worker said carefully, and they show that Ms. Riggs's actions, while unorthodox, may have prevented a catastrophic loss of life. Ben added firmly. Furthermore, her son's decline directly coincides with documented temperature control issues in the formula storage unit. The dog you're calling a liability was the only one who detected these interconnected hazards. The second CPS worker closed her folder slowly. This presents a significantly different context for the situation. The hospital endangered those babies, Maya said, finding her voice again. Not me, not Buddy. We exposed the danger. Just then, Maya's phone buzzed with another news alert. Her heart sank as she read it. Finch Foundation announces independent investigation into hospital incident. Independent? Ben scoffed. They're investigating themselves. But the CPS workers were already standing, gathering their files. We will need to review all this new information thoroughly. One said, her tone now markedly different. For now, we are suspending any action regarding custody. We will be in touch. It wasn't a victory, but it was a stay of execution, a crucial breath of air. Maya sagged in her chair as they left, the relief so intense it was dizzying. Through the conference room window, she could see more reporters gathering in the parking lot. The battle was far from over. They're not going to stop, she said, her voice hoarse. Sterling, Finch, they have too much to lose. Ben squeezed her shoulder. But now we have proof. Real proof. They can't bury official maintenance logs as easily as they can dismiss a mother's concerns. Buddy padded into the room and rested his head on Maya's lap. She scratched behind his ears, remembering how this had all started with a simple, desperate wish for a moment of comfort for her dying son. Now they were in the eye of a storm, fighting to expose a corruption that reached to the highest levels. But this time, she wasn't alone against a machine. She had Ben. She had Buddy. She had allies like Chloe, and now, quiet heroes like Mike from maintenance, who had chosen truth over job security. The proof was in their hands. Buddy's warnings hadn't been about one crisis, but a pattern of them. The truth was messy, complicated, and terrifying for those in power, but it was finally, undeniably, coming to light. The neon sign of Clara's Corner Diner buzzed a steady, comforting hum in the deepening twilight. Inside, nestled in a worn vinyl booth far from the windows, Maya, Ben, and Chloe huddled over laminated menus they had no intention of reading. The air between them was thick, with a mixture of exhaustion and determined resolve. Paper coffee cups and half-eaten plates of greasy fries littered the scratch-for-mica table. Chloe spread out a stack of documents, medical charts, lab reports, and her own meticulously kept notes. Her hands, usually so steady for administering delicate medications, trembled slightly from too much caffeine and too little sleep. "Look at these metabolic markers," she said, her voice low but intense, pointing to a series of numbers on Liam's blood work. His decline started exactly 10 days after the hospital fully switched to the Finch Foundation formula. And he wasn't the only one. Maya leaned forward, pushing her untouched slice of apple pie aside. Other babies got sick too? 2 others showed similar, though less acute, metabolic acidosis and liver stress, Chloe confirmed, pulling out 2 more redacted charts. But their cases were classified under different diagnoses: failure to thrive, respiratory complications. The common thread was buried in separate files. Ben scrolled through the photos of the maintenance logs on his phone, and the formula storage unit's temperature control started failing right around the same time. He held up the screen, showing a work order dated just over 2 months ago. Instead of fixing it, He drew a finger sharply across his throat. Buried it. Maya's stomach turned. They chose money over babies' lives. She felt a wave of nausea, but pushed it down, focusing on the anger instead. They really did. They chose money over babies' lives. Chloe pulled out a glossy, professionally printed hospital newsletter. On the front page, Alistair Finch beamed beside an oversized ceremonial check, Dr. Sterling smiling at his side. The headline read, "Finch Foundation's $25 million pledge launches new era for NICU." The donation came with strings, Chloe explained, tapping the photo. Exclusive long-term contract for all medical supplies, nutritional products, and even some equipment, all from Finch-owned subsidiaries or preferred partners. The hospital board was so dazzled by the number, they didn't look too closely at the fine print. Or they didn't want to, Ben added grimly. Maya felt the weight of the system they were up against. It wasn't just one corrupt administrator, but an entire structure built around protecting money and reputation. How do we fight something this big? We fight with the truth, Ben said firmly, and we have more of it now than they realize. I sent samples of the formula to an independent lab this morning, Chloe said, lowering her voice even further. A friend from nursing school runs a toxicology department there. She's putting a rush on it. She'll keep it quiet until we have the results. Ben nodded, a look of approval on his weary face. Smart. We need ironclad scientific proof before they can spin this as a misunderstanding. Maya pulled out her phone, opening the video she recorded during the evacuation. The footage was shaky but devastatingly clear. The smoke billowing from the panel, Buddy's frantic barks, Dr. Sterling trying to prevent the alarm from being pulled, the chaos as parents realized their children were in genuine danger. "I want to post this," she said, her voice firm, leaving no room for argument. "Tonight, people need to see what really happened." Chloe bit her lip. The hospital will hit back hard. They'll claim patient privacy violations. They'll threaten lawsuits. Let them. Maya's voice was steel. "I'll blur every other patient's face, but I am done being silent. They nearly killed my son. How many other babies are at risk in hospitals right now because of deals like this? Ben placed a steadying hand on hers. We'll help you edit it. We'll make it bulletproof. For the next hour, the diner's fluorescent lights their only witness. They worked as a team. Chloe provided medical context, explaining complex terms in simple, powerful language that any parent could understand. Ben helped structure the narrative, visually linking Buddy's early alerts to maintenance logs and the eventual fire. Maya narrated, her voice steady but filled with raw emotion, detailing the pattern of neglect and naming names. Dr. Isabella Sterling knew about the safety concerns, she said, looking directly into the camera lens on her phone. She chose to hide them. Alistair Finch's foundation provided a contaminated formula, and their donation created a system where profit was prioritized over safety. When the truth started to come out, they tried to blame a grieving mother and a therapy dog for disrupting their perfect, expensive image. She ended with a final, piercing look. I'm speaking out because every parent deserves to know what can happen behind the donor plaques and press releases. My son almost died because of corporate greed and institutional cowardice. How many other hospitals has this happened in? How many other families don't know the real reason their children got sick? Her thumb hovered over the post button. The cursor blinked, a tiny digital heartbeat. She looked at Ben, then at Chloe, seeing her own resolve mirrored in their tired faces. They had come so far, risked so much. This was the point of no return. She took a deep, shuddering breath, then pressed it. It's out there, she whispered, placing the phone on the table as if it were a live grenade. No, taking it back now. Chloe checked her own phone. My friend at the lab says she'll have preliminary results by morning, if they confirm what we suspect. When they confirm it, Ben corrected gently. Buddy doesn't make mistakes about these things. The diner's lights flickered overhead, a mundane occurrence that now felt ominously symbolic. Outside, the sky was fully dark. Maya watched the view counter on her video begin to climb. 1 share, then 5, then 20. Each number was a tiny crack in the wall of silence. Thank you, she said to her friends, her voice thick with emotion. Both of you, for risking everything to help us. Chloe managed a tired, genuine smile. Some things are more important than keeping your head down. I became a nurse to help people, not to watch them get hurt because a billionaire wants better publicity. Ben nodded. Buddy taught me that sometimes the most important thing you can do is trust your instincts and stand your ground, even when everyone in a position of authority says you're wrong. Maya's phone buzzed again. The video was spreading now, picking up momentum as people share their own stories of medical negligence and corporate cover-ups in the comments. The hashtag patients over profit was starting to trend. We should get some rest, Chloe suggested, though it sounded like a wish more than a plan. Tomorrow is going to be intense once the hospital and the foundation see this. They gathered their evidence, tucking papers and USB drives safely into their bags. The truth was no longer a secret held by 3 people in a diner. It was out in the world, moving through social media feeds and text messages, a virus of truth they had released into the ecosystem of lies. As they stepped out into the cool night air, the diner's neon sign hummed above them like a promise, a small light pushing back against a vast darkness. They had chosen their moment and their method. Now, all they could do was stand firm as the storm they had summoned began to break around them. Maya checked her phone one last time before getting into her car. The video had over 5,000 shares. News outlets were starting to pick it up. No matter what happened next, they had succeeded in one crucial thing. People were finally paying attention. The comfortable silence protecting Sterling and Finch was shattered. The story was now public property, and the court of public opinion was now in session. The numbers climbed through the night like a silent army gathering strength. By dawn, Maya's video had been viewed over 300,000 times. She watched the counter tick upward on her phone screen, curled in the unfamiliar but peaceful room of the children's hospital where Liam now rested. Her son slept soundly, his breathing even and strong for the first time in months. The portable oxygen tank now gone, his color a healthy pink. The morning news vans arrived before sunrise, their satellite dishes sprouting like metallic mushrooms in the parking lot. Reporters stood in the pre-dawn chill, their breath misty in the air, microphones at the ready. Through the window, Maya could see their camera lights cutting through the morning gloom, illuminating the pavement in stark, white circles. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ben. Asterisk just sent the full evidence package to Marcus Chun at the Patient Safety Alliance and to Sarah Rodriguez at the Tribune. She's the investigative reporter who broke the medical supply price gouging story last year. They're both interested. Asterisk. Maya typed back a quick thank you, her fingers trembling not with fear, but with a nervous, hopeful energy. More notifications flooded her screen. Comments of support, messages from other parents sharing similar stories of being silenced by medical institutions, offers of help from advocacy groups. The truth was a spark, and the tinder of public outrage was dry and ready. The hospital corridor outside Liam's room erupted with a different kind of activity. Around 7 a.m. phones rang incessantly at the nurse's station. Staff members whispered in hushed, urgent clusters, shooting furtive glances toward her door. Maya caught fragments of conversation. Asterisk board meeting, asterisk state investigation, asterisk liability starred. Dr. Isabella Sterling arrived at 8:15 a.m. Her usual armor of pristine composure was chipped. Her tailored suit was slightly rumpled, and her perfectly styled hair showed a hint of disarray. She marched straight toward the administrative wing, trailed by 3 men in expensive, serious-looking suits, the hospital's legal cavalry. An hour later, a young nurse Maya recognized from the NICU slipped into the room. "They're trying to build a case against you," she whispered, her eyes wide. "Dr. Sterling is telling the board you tamper with the equipment, that you caused electrical short yourself for attention. She says security footage shows you near the panel before it sparked." Maya's heart clenched, but the fear was quickly supplanted by a cold anger. "I was checking on my son. That's all I was ever doing. And the maintenance logs Ben found prove those problems existed long before I ever set foot in that ward." The nurse nodded. "Most of us are on your side. We've seen too many things get swept under the rug for too long." By 10 a.m., the hospital's PR team had released an official statement. Maya read it on her phone, her lip curling at the carefully lawyered language. "We take all safety concerns with the utmost seriousness, conducting a thorough internal review, remain committed to patient well-being, unfortunate misunderstanding." Ben arrived around 11 o'clock, carrying 2 cups of coffee and a determined expression. "Sarah Rodriguez is running the story in tomorrow's paper," he said, handing Maya a cup. "Front page. She's got quotes from 3 former employees about similar incidents that were covered up. The Patient Safety Alliance is issuing a formal demand for a federal audit." "Thank you," Maya said, wrapping her hands around the warm cup, "for everything. I couldn't have done any of this without you." He smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling. "Buddy's the real hero. He knew something was wrong before any of us had a clue." As if on cue, shouting erupted in the corridor. Alistair Finch had arrived, his expensive shoes clicking against the linoleum with the sharp, angry rhythm of a ticking bomb. He swept past Liam's room, trailed by a flustered assistant, radiating pure, undiluted fury. "Where is she?" Finch's voice carried clearly through the walls. "Where's Isabella Sterling?" Maya and Ben exchanged a look. Through the partially open door, they watched the drama unfold at the nurse's station. Dr. Sterling emerged from her office, trying to reclaim her aura of authority. "Alistair, perhaps we should discuss this in private." "Asterisk private? Asterisk." Finch's laugh was sharp enough to cut glass. "Like you privately ignored maintenance warnings? My foundation's reputation is in tatters because you couldn't manage a simple crisis. I was protecting the hospital's interests." Sterling shot back, her voice strained. "You were protecting yourself." Finch jabbed a manicured finger in her direction. "Look at this mess. National media, social media wildfire, my board members calling for my head, all because you couldn't control one distraught mother and a damn golden retriever." Their voices faded as they moved toward the administrative wing. But the damage was done. Staff members who had witnessed the confrontation were no longer whispering. They were talking in normal tones, their expressions a mixture of shock and vindication. Ben's phone buzzed. He showed Maya the screen, an email from the State Department of Health, confirming the launch of an official inquiry into St. Michael's safety protocols and its relationship with the Finch Foundation. "The dominoes are starting to fall," he said quietly. Maya nodded, watching through the window as another satellite truck pulled into the lot. "I just hope it's enough to actually change things. Not just here, but anywhere this is happening." Throughout the afternoon, the hospital seemed to hold its breath. The usual sounds were muted, replaced by a tense anticipation. Around 3 p.m., Chloe stopped by, now wearing her street clothes but radiating a quiet strength. "Board meeting's been going for 4 hours," she reported. "The word is they're reviewing every complaint Sterling dismissed over the past 2 years." "Good," Maya said firmly. "They need to see the whole ugly pattern." "Some of the other nurses are coming forward now," Chloe added, a hint of pride in her voice, talking about times they reported problems and were ignored or told to be quiet. "It's like a dam breaking. Once the first person speaks up, others find their courage." Ben finished. As evening approached, they heard a door slam with finality from the administrative wing. Through the window, they watched Dr. Sterling stride across the parking lot toward her car, her face a rigid mask, her gaze fixed straight ahead. She didn't look at the reporters shouting questions, didn't acknowledge the cameras. The impeccable composure she had maintained for so long had finally, completely shattered. Alistair Finch had left hours earlier, his face thunderous, already on his phone with what sounded like a team of crisis managers. His foundation's website had gone offline for maintenance. A different quiet settled over the hospital as night fell, not the fearful silence of secrets, but the calm after a storm. The long-maintained walls of unaccountability were crumbling. Maya sat beside Liam's crib, holding his tiny, warm hand. His color was better, his breathing stronger. On her phone, the view counter for her video passed 1 million. Each view was a person who now knew the truth, a witness to what had happened. Ben pulled up a chair beside her. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the lights of the news vans reflect off the windows like a constellation of newfound stars. Finally, Maya spoke, her voice soft. "You think it will make a difference? Really change anything?" Ben considered this, then nodded slowly. "Truth has a weight, Maya. Once it's out there, especially when it's about the safety of children, it creates its own gravity. It demands change. It might not be fast, and it might not be perfect, but it will change things." The hospital boardroom the next morning felt like a courtroom. Dr. Arthur Hemsworth, the board chairman, spoke with a grave finality that echoed off the darkwood panels. "The evidence is incontrovertible," he said, addressing a somber room. "A systematic failure of leadership, a disregard for patient safety, and a deliberate campaign to discredit those who try to sound the alarm." He turned his gaze to Dr. Sterling, who sat perfectly still. "Dr. Sterling, the board has voted unanimously. Your employment is terminated, effective immediately." There was no outburst, only a quiet, crushing defeat. She stood, placed her ID badge on the table, and walked out, her reign over. Weeks later, the changes were already visible. New, transparent protocols were implemented. The Family Advisory Board, with Maya as its vice chair, had real authority. Maintenance requests were now handled within 24 hours. And in the sun-drenched NICU of the Children's Hospital, a healthy, babbling Liam reached out from his mother's arms to her familiar furry face. Buddy lay quietly beside the chair, his special hospital hero visitor badge hanging proudly from his vest. His warm, brown eyes watched over the baby with gentle contentment. As Maya held Liam close, the baby's small hand reached out and successfully touched Buddy's soft golden fur, his fingers curling gently in the warmth. The gesture mirrored those early, failed attempts in the sterile incubator, but now completed, a circle closed, a promise kept. His journey from a comforter to a detective to a catalyst for change was complete. Maya looked from her son to Ben, who stood beside her, his hand resting lightly on her shoulder. Their shared battle had forged a bond stronger than either could have imagined. "Thanks to you," she whispered, her heart full. Ben smiled. shaking his head. "Thanks to both of you," he said, his gaze taking in both Maya and the golden dog at her feet. "You taught me that some rules are meant to be broken, and that the smallest voice can echo the loudest. Sometimes, the most profound healing doesn't come from a syringe or a scalpel, but from a mother's fierce love, a friend's steadfast courage, and the unwavering instinct of a dog who refused to let the world look away." The story of the boy and the golden retriever had ended not with goodbye, but with a new beginning, a testament to the truth that even in the darkest of rooms, a single spark of courage can ignite a revolution. If stories like this touch your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Bonds Unspoken. Every click helps us share more incredible moments that celebrate the bond between humans and animals. And be sure to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story that reminds us what true loyalty feels like.